So we have here with me an awesome kind of opportunity to chat with Jenny Lee-Gilmore and Dr. Kelley Lee-Gilmore about their new film, Overtime. Um, so I met Kelly a few years ago when I was doing my PhD project, and somebody connected me with Kelly. And as somebody who's very in tune with the Vancouver hockey scene, you were able to connect me with some research participants, which was great. And then through you, then I ended up meeting Jenny down the line, and we haven't all three of us played hockey together yet,
Oh,
but I have had the opportunity to play with Kelly and your son Alex, which he's annoyingly good. It's very fast and very young,
yes,
too young for
yes.
us.
Oh boy.
And Jenny, you had a film called Breakaway, a short film a few years ago that was also inspired by your mom. So you're getting a lot of leg work out of your mom for your film products. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Breakaway and then kind of how we were sitting here today talking about another film?
Yes. So Breakaway was a short film I made in film school. It's a short narrative about a young Chinese Canadian girl growing up in 1970s Vancouver, and she really wants to play hockey. So that was the short film based on my mom's life, a fictionalized version. And that brings us today to Overtime, which is the 40-minute documentary about my mom's real life and journey to playing hockey. And it follows her team, who are the 55 plus BC women's team competing in the nationals. So we had a film crew follow them around in this documentary.
Yeah, and so first of all, congratulations for having this out in the world. I mean, it's always it's a lot of legwork and time that goes into making a production like this, and to see it kind of shared with everybody is always a big moment. But when I watched it again this afternoon, I was thinking, what a wonderful legacy piece just to have for your family, because your whole family's in it. Your husband's in it, your son's in it, Kelly. So what's that like to just kind of have this little, it's like a time capsule, a little snapshot of your family that gets, it will live kind of get to be passed down from here on out.
Oh, it's amazing to have, who would have thought that this would all happen? But exactly, it's a great record of this, really special week that we had last year, but also just capturing it was a very much a family involved event. So capturing that was fantastic. And then all the polish of the professionalism of the camera crew and everything. It was like the best home movie ever. So I feel very lucky.
It's true. It's kind of like a vacation video for your family, but a very well produced one. So Jenny, how did you come up with the idea for this film?
I think my mom was telling me about the tournament that she was going with this team who are all 55 plus women, and they were competing in the nationals. And I just thought to myself, wow, that would make a great documentary. Like, I'd love to film that. But at the time, I didn't have any funding. And I think this was before it got canceled or pushed because of COVID. And then the tournament got pushed. And it gave me time to be like, oh my gosh, this could be a reality. I could really actually film this and make it happen. So yeah, I was really struck by the story and wanting to follow the team. And of course, my mom. And we were lucky enough to, I think, get funding like just a few months before the actual tournament. So it became a reality because of TELUS Originals. And then meeting the team as well, I also realized that this is such a special story. Yeah.
Kelly, what is it like having a film crew follow you around, considering nobody usually watches our beer league games, nobody cares, and then suddenly you're the center of attention?
Yeah, Jenny's always has a radar out for a good story. And I thought this was a good story. So I just told her about it. And then when she pitched it to TELUS, I was all excited. I thought it was going to be about the team. And when she came back and said, oh, actually, they want to focus because of, I guess, telling a good story, you have to focus on one person. And that person happens to be me and our relationship. I was really nervous. I mean, I was quite uncomfortable because, of course, it never happened to me before. And I think I was also concerned because hockey is so much about the team, it's not about individuals. So I felt, the sum is greater than the parts. Why are you focusing on one person? But it made sense, I guess, from a story point of view. Um, and so having a crew follow me around, yeah, it's certainly a new experience. The main thing that made me nervous was worrying that the crew didn't think we were very good hockey players. It sounds kind of crazy, but or that I wasn't a very good hockey player. And I was nervous that the crew would be watching NHL games and then they would watch us and we would be we'd pale by comparison type thing. But I think we really lucked out because the crew didn't really know much about hockey except one person who played. So they didn't have any expectations, and that was a relief. And they even said that we surprised them. That they got really into it and they became our #1 cheerleaders at the games. So that was super fun. Um, but I would say the film crew was lovely because when you're the focus of filming, um, and it's every moment. Like you're not just when you're all made up and have your hair done and stuff. It's when you're all sweaty and horrible and you're playing hockey and you're looking your worst. That's when I was feeling particularly nervous and the trying to focus on the games because there was obviously an important tournament going on, and then having the crew. I knew they were, so I was just trying to ignore the cameras, but they were in the changing rooms. And then of course following me around afterwards. So eventually I got sort of used to it, but what was really nice is Jenny's a great director. She made me feel comfortable and she made me feel, like it was just like, oh, ignore the camera, just talk to me. And I just saw her smiling face and that made it a lot easier. So yeah, but I certainly definitely not giving up my day job. It kind of a little bit of what it's like to be famous, and it's definitely nice to be anonymous. After that experience, I would not want that as a daily occurrence.
What did your team think about it when you told them we're gonna have a film crew following us? What do you guys
They were so excited. I think first I said, Jenny's pitching this, we'll see. And then that's why I was nervous because I said, oh, she's going to pitch for this documentary about the team. And then when she came back and said, actually tell us what's to focus on you and then make it about the team as well, but mainly about the sort of your journey. So I was a little bit nervous about, oh God, I can't come back and say, hey, actually I'm the star of the show. So I let Jenny tell them, but they were, to their credit, they were so supportive, even though it wasn't focused on the team. They were hugely excited. And I think what I said in the film, that we felt seen. There was a moment somebody asked some of our players, hey, what's this film crew? Are they like, which guys team are they following, right? So they just assumed it was a men's team that they were being filmed, and they were took great pleasure in telling them, no, it's actually us they're filming. So that was lovely, that we actually mattered enough to have a film crew follow us around. And they were so stoked, to be honest. They're very, very excited.
Well, that's quite the assumption, eh? That there must be a men's team
Yeah, I know.
Jenny, in the film, like very early on, you talk about how part of your kind of priority around the film was that you see your mom a particular way and your mom sees herself in a different way, and that this was kind of a way to reframe your mom's relationship with kind of the way you see her as young and active and this badass hockey player. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to make the film is to show my mom how badass she is. I think she's selling herself short even in this call, where my friends were like, the crew were very impressed with the level of hockey that was being played. I mean, you see in the film, like they're speedy. Like I personally don't know if I could have even kept up with them. So firstly, they're great hockey players, and I think my mom's journey to hockey has been really inspiring to me. And I wanted to show other people that, and by showing other people, hopefully having my mom see it and actually reflect on her life and see how much she's accomplished and how much she's done and how much of an inspiration that is to me and will be for other people who watch the film. And I think that's what Telus saw as well when I was pitching the film, is it's great to have these women playing hockey at 55 plus, but I think what everyone can connect to, regardless of if they play hockey, is this is a woman that is doing something that she feels passionate about at an older age. She's still playing, and she's gone through a lot of barriers in the beginning of her life where she couldn't play and a lot of odds were stacked against her. So I think that as a universal theme was very relatable and inspiring to people.
Yeah, and I think what I love about Overtime is that it shows how seriously some of us take our beer league hockey, right? And obviously not everyone writes themselves scripts the way Kelley, you did in one of your games. Do you do that all the time, or is that just because it was a big game?
Yeah, only for big tournaments. That would take a lot of time, but I think that'd be, even for me, a little too serious. Yeah, beer league games. I actually, am less serious about those games than I used to be. Used to be ridiculously intense about every game I played, but I now know the difference. So I prepare for those tournaments because I don't know how you are, Court, on the ice, but I get really, a bit too overthinking things. And I also need to play with confidence. And, it's a cliche, but if you're going in and you're doubting yourself, or somebody, you make a mistake and you dwell on that, it's so, bad for your game. So you need to mentally really prepare. So those scripts are incredibly important. I was told about them by my teammate, Gwen, who is a high-level coach. She coaches the national ball hockey team for the US and for Canada. She was an incredibly high-level coach, and she has these young women who she tries to teach them about, the mental side of the game. And so I just picked up this little tidbit. We shared a room once in a tournament, and I'm such a sponge. I'll just like learn from her. And so I have this little script that I refer to, and it kind of calms me down. And you play for in the moment, right? That is the key thing. You just play in the moment. Put everything out of your head. It's got to be instinct. You can't be, kind of thinking about things too much on the ice. I think that's when you play your best.
Mm-hmm. And I love that we see you kind of like doing a bit of weight training, and also like the pregame warm-ups and stuff. Like there is a method to the madness, right? We're not just rolling up to the rink and hoping for the best. That your team takes it quite seriously. And as you say, sometimes in beer league we can take it seriously too, sometimes too seriously. But that it matters, that hockey really matters, especially to folks who came to it at a later age. It is a big deal for us, and we take it quite seriously, and we try to approach it with some level of professionalism if we can, right? Making sure that we're healthy enough to compete on the ice to the best of our ability. And Kelley, you and I were at was it 2018, the Ouellette Poulin adult camp?
Yeah.
So we've had that experience of getting to see a little bit of what it would be like to be a professional athlete, where your whole day is kind of revolving around your sport, which is awesome. And I think, Jenny, the part of the film where you have the individual player intros as everybody skating onto the ice is so cool. Like that's living the dream for a lot of us.
Yeah, I wanted to create that, not only to include the whole team, but also that's all the stuff, like all these images of players coming onto the ice. They're usually seen, in NHL games. A lot of men, usually see women of a certain age in those kind of shots. So we were trying to recreate that like intensity and badassery. Is that a word?
Yes, totally. I loved it. Who do you hope is the intended audience for this film? Who do you hope gets to enjoy it?
Initially, well, it's changed a little. Initially, I wanted it to be female hockey players of a certain age group. But now that we played the film more, it's turning out there's a lot more audiences than I thought would relate and enjoy the film. I think a lot of younger female hockey players will enjoy it. Young people in general, and anyone who's, I think, had a passion or a love of something that hasn't felt attainable. So really anyone that's kind of had an underdog story, but especially the female hockey community of a certain age group.
Nice.
Could I jump in here? I think there's two main audiences. And you're right, Jenny, there's people who I thought, wouldn't find this that interesting. We're just getting all these emails and messages, lovely messages saying how they enjoyed the film, even though they don't particularly like hockey. But I do think the hockey community is the number, you know, I initially thought that would be where our main audience would be. I think because the hockey community would understand the obsession with the sport. And I hope that they do enjoy the film, because you can connect with the pure joy, I think, of playing the game, and whatever age you are. I think you can see that in the women. So I hope hockey players will go away and think, oh yeah, you know, I can enjoy the game at any age, whatever I, you know, whenever I stop, but hopefully for a long time. And I think that's really inspiring. But I think the second audience has probably become the more important one, and I think it's women. And I think it's women, especially older women, who maybe you go through a process, Court, you're not quite at that stage yet, but you go process of aging where you realize that people see you very differently. And that's, you know, society really, how society sees older women. And I said at the screening last Tuesday, the documentary, yes, is about me and my crazy obsession with hockey, but you know, and then I found my people, so it's kind of a nice story in that sense. But on another level, the film is about how women, when we get older, it's difficult for us, physically very difficult. You go through all these physical changes, but it's more even challenging in that society starts to how society sees you, or more importantly, how it doesn't see you. You just become this invisible demographic, and you just kind of disappear from so many aspects of society, including competitive sports. People don't think of older women when they think of competitive sports. So you kind of fade into the background. And so the film really hopefully will speak to older women. And after the showing last week, my auntie, Rosalie, came up to me. She's 80. And she's usually a very quiet person, but she was so full of enthusiasm from what she saw in the film. She'd never played hockey in her life, of course, and probably isn't particularly a hockey fan, but she spoke to me and said, you know, I really related to that, because she's 80 and she's, you know, still trying to be active, but it's always a challenge, you know, trying to be, I guess there are not opportunities to shine as older women. And so I think the film is a lot about that as well. So I'm hoping the audience will also be older women, and how we all go through that same, you know, process of becoming invisible,
Mm.
and we're going to fight it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jenny.
that's so interesting, because obviously I'm young. And yeah, my mom's demographic, you're saying older women, and it's true. So many older women, I think, will find this film relatable. But a lot of people my age as well really enjoyed the film, firstly, to have something to look forward to and realize that there's things in their life they don't have to give up once they get us to a certain age.
Right.
And a lot of people, like a lot of my friends who have seen it, have seen their parents in a different light because of the film. And it kind of humanizes your parents of still having all these passions and desires and wants. So yeah, the audiences have become a lot wider than I initially thought. And I think that's been a really beautiful experience, is having different people come up and tell us what parts of the film they found relatable.
Yeah, I love that. And when you were talking earlier about folks who didn't necessarily love hockey but have taken to the film, I think that that's an important part of it, because most people who've decided that they don't like hockey, it's because they've had bad experiences with the dominant version of hockey in Canada, right? So this is a really important counter narrative to be like, no, not all hockey is like that. There are so many different stories out there. We just haven't had the opportunity to showcase them. Kelley, has the team seen the film yet?
Yeah, well, most of them have now. We had that private screening last week, and they're very patient. I know that poor Jenny was being inundated with, when are we going to see this film? We're getting older. And finally they got to see it. There were a lot of tears shed, a lot of, I think, you know, laughter. I have to say, the film is not, you know, it takes you on a kind of really emotional journey, really. There's a lot of laughter, a lot of tears, and they loved it. And I think just being on screen, I mean, they just were thrilled with that. So yes, they've been seeing it. They want to show their family. They see it as also a really important memento of a period. We'll be in our 90s and we'll go, hey, remember when we, in our younger years when we were 55. It's great. I love that. That's a gift that Jenny has given them. So it's amazing, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jenny, was there anything that you learned about your mom that was kind of surprising through this process, or something you didn't know about her previously?
That's a great question. First thing I learned that she's a natural on camera. Although you were saying, Mom, you found it a little overwhelming at first. Like, you were such a natural. I think it's harder than you realize to be able to sit on camera and be as vulnerable as you were and talk about your life. So I think I was really pleasantly surprised at how easy that was to follow you around. I also learned a lot about my mom's story to playing hockey. I knew snippets, but making this doc, before making it and interviewing on camera, I asked a lot of questions that I never asked before, in terms of what drew her to hockey, what was it like when you started playing, what do you like about hockey, and what has it done to enrich your life. So that was really interesting for me. And I think also I didn't realize how many friendships you had through hockey and how close you were to the women on your team. So that was really lovely to see you with all your friends.
Yeah, I
Kelley, is
think
there
Jenny thinks of me as like I am a workaholic, so I'm always like in front of my computer or whatever. I seem like this lonely person in front of a computer all day. So it's nice for her to see that I actually have a life outside of work. So that was important.
Kelley, how about you? Is there anything that you learned about your daughter?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I learned a lot about, I see my daughter as my daughter, right? And I love hearing about her work, but I learned a lot about, Jenny, your professionalism as a filmmaker. It's a world I don't inhabit, so it was fascinating to me just seeing the process. And I always trusted that I would be in good hands with you because you're just I knew you'd be kind to me. You would never make me look bad on film. So that was, I knew that. And I think what I learned though in working with her is what a great director she is. Even if I wasn't her mom, um, the director's job, I learned, is about getting the best out of the person who's in front of the camera. It's not an easy job because you have to, as a director, have the overall vision, and you have to know what you want from the person and the subject, and you have to be able to lead the crew that's moving around behind the scenes, to achieve that vision. So all of that swirling in your head, Jenny, I learned how difficult that must be when you're trying to move this project forward, and how definitive your role is in the film that ends up on screen. So, and I know that you take a lot on the chin as a director. You still have to maintain a kind of positive tone, even when people are tired or stressed, or, I don't want to do this. So you still have to keep people motivated. So I learned, I watched you, and you always kept your cool, always patient. And I knew that wasn't easy because, you had your mom, but also all these other people to work with. And it must have been very stressful, but you never let it show. And that, to me, was really an eye opener on how professional you were. And I'm so excited. I think you're, just see what you're going to direct in future. It's such a challenging role as a director, but just watching you in action, I'm really excited about what you're going to do in future.
Aw, thanks, Ma.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do the same film, the same people without the mother-daughter relationship, it's very different. Like, that grounds it in a very, as Kelley said, an emotional way, but a very, I don't know, it's an extremely touching love letter to the family, right? Which I think makes it very distinct, and it's beautiful. And I think, as you've alluded to, the significance of Overtime is not that it's just about mature women who play hockey, but also having an Asian woman as the protagonist in a hockey film offers us a very unique lens through which to explore the game. Jenny, talk to us a little bit about your assessment of kind of Asian representation in film and TV at this point.
Yeah, I feel really lucky that I'm entering the business at a time where this is even a conversation. I feel like even 10, 20 years ago, this was a conversation that was not happening, or it wasn't happening in mainstream spaces. Um, there's been a lot of improvement with representation of Asian people in media, but there's still so long to go. I think a lot of people still confuse authentic representation with tokenism, and there needs to be more progress both in front of and behind the camera. I think a lot of the time, the people who are behind the camera, the decision makers, the people who have the power, the people who have the money, are not often the people who are from the Asian community, Asian Canadian, Asian American community. And I really love this statement of there should be no stories about us without us. And I think that's still something that really needs to be worked on.
Kelly, do you have any thoughts of kind of playing this leading role in a very kind of groundbreaking way?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, it's exactly, the representation was, I think we had Kung Fu, played by David Carradine. He played an Asian guy, I think. We had, some really horrible stereotypes. And so growing up, you didn't feel very good about yourself as you were depicted on screen, if at all. So either you're the villain or you're some comical character that, people poked fun of. And so, that was kind of hard. And then, just now, I lived in the UK for a long time, and it was always Chinese people. If they ended up on screen, you'd either be part of a triad or some sort of domestic abuse situation. You're never anything. You're just depicted in a certain way. So I was really excited when, TELUS was interested in me as a hockey player. I know they're very interested in hockey, and I know they've done other series of junior hockey players, for example. So I was going to be really different from them for sure. I think what really excited me was that I could just kind of, change that narrative that hockey isn't just that demographic. We have a lot of different hockey players in Canada, and we just never get our story told. And it's not just me, but there's just as you know, Court, you've been, highlighting this for a long time. There's such diversity out there, but no one would ever know. You ask anyone in this, in this country or any other country, draw a hockey player, right? And they're going to draw a white male, and so it's really important. I think, especially now, I think hockey is going through a really difficult time in Canada. We're, it has to change, and there's already so much richness out there, and we're just not tapping into it. I think there's also a business side to this. If you want to grow the game, it's not that typical demographic that's growing. It's actually female hockey, and it's new Canadians wanting to play hockey, and there's all sorts of people who don't get a chance to play, and they can be put off. So I hope that the film will show that, hey, if I can do it, at my age and my cultural background and my gender, I don't think, I think it's a sport for everyone. And I guess that's kind of cliche, but I hope that's what people come away with. They see Asian women differently. We can do more than what has been depicted on screen in the past, and that hockey itself is much more than what we see on the screens. It's just such a narrowly told story.
Well, I mean, I think if you even reflect on the fact that the three of us are here right now because of hockey is quite interesting. 3 generations, growing up in Canada and the UK, and kind of coming to hockey at very different stages, and Jenny being able to play through her youth, and like that's how long the change takes for us to kind of start to see a leading edge of something different. But hopefully now we can start to see more exponential growth because we've created a different landscape. Hopefully there's obviously a lot that needs to change, but I think this is a very good sign that things hopefully will be different in the future. Kelly, in the film you are seen in the locker room holding a stuffed monkey. at some point, but you never really talk about why you're holding a stuffed monkey. So what is the significance of the monkey?
There they are.
Oh, there he is.
It's not a stuffed monkey. It's actually my skate guards.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So these are great. And Jenny has lions. There's different animals you can have. So basically the skate guards were my son's, Alex, and he had them for a long time, and then he got to the age where they became a little bit embarrassing, so he gave them to me. I said, I want them, I think they're cool. So one day, they became my lucky monkeys. And there's wonderful stories about the Monkey King in classical Chinese literature. The Monkey King had supernatural strength and speed. But I like Curious George as well. So I thought monkeys, this has got to be a good thing. It was meant to be. So I took them, and then a few tournaments ago, I think it was the US Nationals, I started this tradition. I don't know how I started doing it, but I started to rub between the eyes just to bring myself luck. I don't know. I just, hockey players are so superstitious, right? So you start something and then you start winning and then you have to do it again. So I was doing that and I was tickling him, I don't know why, under the chin. I did both of them. And then I scored some goals and then we won the tournament. So now I thought, okay, I can't stop doing this on tournaments. I have to do that every time. So in Kamloops, I started to do this. I thought I was doing it quite quietly, but my teammate, Karen Minato, noticed that I had these monkeys and I was doing this funny rubbing the eyes and stuff. She was, what are you doing? I said, no, this is my lucky monkeys. I have to do this. So she started doing it as well. So the two of us, before every game that you see on the film, were, had these monkeys. And then the one game where we forgot because we were distracted, we lost. And that was, like, oh, we kicked ourselves. Like, we cannot not do this. So yeah, so this is the tradition now. And my last tournament just over the summer, the monkeys came out again and we won. So I can't grow a beard, but I can rub my monkeys between the eyes. So there we are.
I'm so glad I asked about the monkey.
Oh, I don't know what, if you have a superstitious, thing, Court, before important games, maybe you need to find one.
That's too funny. I mean, I have a bit of a routine. It's kind of my superstition before playoff games, but I don't have a lucky monkey or lucky skate guards. I might have to look into it. Towards the end of the film, Kelley, you say that you never really thought about yourself as a hockey player. You always described yourself as someone who played hockey, liked hockey, and that through this process, maybe you're willing to refer to yourself as a hockey player. Is that how you refer to yourself now? Is that a solid change?
I'm still working on it, depending who I'm talking to, I guess. It took me this long to get that confidence, right? To see myself in that role, and I give myself permission. But yeah, I think, having come, I won't give it away, but we did well in the Canadian Nationals. We did win the US Nationals at one point, and we're going back in the spring. And I thought, wow, if I'm doing all this stuff, I guess I am a hockey player. And so, seeing myself in that way is really important. I grew up where, it's actually not just non-Asian people, it's Asian people seeing you in a certain way and going, you play hockey? And they look at you like, and it wasn't a nice look. It was like you were some sort of oddball. And why would you do that? And, you're supposed to, as an Asian girl, an Asian woman, you're supposed to be quiet, kind of, passive. Maybe don't put yourself forward competitively, and you're supposed to ideally be small. And you'll relate to this, Court, because you're tall. But I was tall as a child, and I was always seen as this giant person, right? Because my cousins were tiny. And so nothing, I never conformed to any of the ideals. And so then telling them I play hockey, they just thought, yeah, you would, wouldn't you, you giant person, you. And so, yeah, it was kind of giving myself permission to go, yeah, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I do. And yeah, it's taken me this long. But yes, I am a hockey player. So like it or lump it.
I would concur. I definitely think you're a hockey player. I thought you were a hockey player the minute I found out you were on the ice like 5-6 times a week. I was like, oh, she's a hockey player. No joke about it.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Court.
So what do you want the world to take away from this film? 1 about women's hockey, 2 about adult recreational players, and 3 about Asian women. Jenny, we'll start with you.
Oh gosh. I think my mom touched on a lot of it. I think in terms of hockey, that it's way more diverse than what is usually depicted in media. I think a lot of the time it is just associated with white masculinity, when in reality it's like many different people play the sport, enjoy the sport, watch the sport, and that there's still competitive hockey for women of a certain age group. So in terms of hockey, I think that's what I want people to take away. And also that it's not just about hockey. I think you see in the film, it's also about friendships and that community around the sport, and the different ways it enriches these women's lives, both mentally and physically. And then in terms of Asian women, I think my mom touched on it, but yeah, often Asian women or at least in media, they're often the best friend. They're often very quiet. And I think just showing a new way that Asian women can be competitive and physical is really important.
We're also not super used to seeing Asian women behind the camera either. So I think that that's also an important aspect of this. Kelley, what do you hope kind of are the big takeaways for folks?
It's such an exciting time. I know it's a historic time for women's hockey at the elite level, and I know you've been involved in this, Court, the creation of the new PWHL, the first draft, right? Wow. Training camp coming up. I mean, it's so long overdue for these athletes. They're so amazing. Standard of women's hockey's never been higher. I love watching them. But the problem has never been quality of play. It's always been about limited opportunities for women to play professional sports. So I'm very excited for this period. I think the female side of the game, as I say, is the fastest growing one. And, they always assume, oh, there's going to be no audience for them. Nobody wants to watch female hockey players. And there is, and it's a growing audience. So if only I was 40 years younger, as I always thought, or 100 times better at hockey too, because, I would love to be involved in, competing and that. So that would have been great, but look forward to watching them. I think it's all well deserved for recreational hockey. So there's lots of exciting things happening. We started a 40+ league here in Burnaby, but I think in general it's a time for change as well. You go to any recreational rink around the country and the men's teams dominate. There are a larger number of men playing, so understandably there are more teams, but the women are fighting for a spot and for space. And I think if I was running a rink and I wanted to make sure I had a sustainable business, I would be catering for the female market, especially the women who can afford to play, who want to play, haven't had a chance to play. I think that's a really untapped market. There could be lots more classes, more leagues, more just, create a product that women will want. And you've got this, big business opportunity. So I don't think that's quite catered for yet. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I really hope that Asian women, Asian people will stand up, be themselves. It's not an easy time to be Asian right now, to be honest. We had the pandemic. We have now a lot of geopolitical tensions, and my friends and I, we talk about it. Is there any good news about being Chinese in the news? It's all about negative things, and I think that's something I grew up with as a child. You were never kind of depicted in a positive way. I hope that changes, because there's so many interesting aspects of the community, and we hope that we'll recognize not just as perpetual foreigners, but as part of the bricks and mortar of this country, which I think that is still not recognized. Jenny's the 4th generation in our family, and I don't know if people understand that that just, I guess, playing hockey is like, how more Canadian can you be, I suppose. And so I'm hoping, that this film will kind of open people's eyes that we are part of the community and we're part of Canada, and hopefully those stereotypes will be put behind us.
Yeah, beautifully said. So Jenny, what is in the pipeline for you? What are next projects? Is there another film we can get out of your mom's hockey career?
I think I've tapped the resources of my mom's life at this point. I think I need to leave her alone for a bit. And she's still writing she's still got a lot of, when the overtime is released, I'm sure she's going to be getting a lot of attention for that. But I do have a few projects in development, and then a couple more actively in production. So I'm doing another documentary next month with CBC Shorts about my diagnosis of narcolepsy when I was 21. So that's going to be an even more personal film to me. I thought Overtime was personal, but this one's going to be even more so. So I'm really excited for that project. I'm also doing a short film I just got greenlit for about a granddaughter who's dealing with her grandmother's dementia and how she's navigating her new relationship with her grandma as she becomes more ill. And then also my first feature that I'm currently writing. It's a horror movie. So I'm really excited about that. So a lot in the works. And of course, still Breakaway is a series. That's something I'm still working on and actively developing. So a few more hockey stories, but also changing lanes a little and doing some other projects that aren't to do with hockey as well.
Very cool. Congrats on all of those awesome projects. We'll keep an eye out for that. Kelley, what's next up on your hockey schedule? You got big tournaments, big championships
Always,
coming up.
it's like I said for years, oh, this could be my last year. I might be hanging my skates up soon. And so, I was playing like that, and I don't think that way anymore. We have in April, we're going to Tampa for the US Nationals. This will be my third time going. And so very excited about that. I think we're bringing a really strong team. We're still sneaking in there. I still don't understand why a Canadian team can play in the US Nationals, but don't tell anyone. It's super fun. Sunshine and hockey, so that's a nice combo. And then coming round, we won over the summer the provincials in our age group, 55 plus, and so we have qualified again for the nationals. So 2 years after the film, we're going to be competing in Quebec City. It's going to be tough. We're all that much older, and I think we have to go into the 55 plus. So a lot of us over 60 now. So it does make a difference. Every year that you're older, the old bones don't quite move as fast as you like. So all that training, all that kind of weight training is really important as you age, Court, when you get to that point and many years ahead. Strength training, that's all ahead of me. So yeah, it's we're serious, not because we're obsessed. We're serious because we don't want to get hurt. We want to compete at the best level that we can. So yeah, I'm very excited. Got to squeeze us all in. I'm not retired yet. A lot of the players are, but I still have full-time work. So but I'm really excited about that, and it'll just go on and see how far I go. I have a 71-year-old teammate, so I'm the young one by comparison. And she is amazing. She hops the boards, and she's faster than me. So I try and keep up with her.
Oh, that's impressive. And yeah, you're definitely a hockey player. She's like, I'm going to this nationals, I'm going to that national. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Where can people watch Overtime? How can they support you?
So starting in December 2023, it will be available at tellusoriginals.com and also through broadcasts with TELUS. And then hopefully in the new year with a couple other streamers, but we'll keep you updated.
Well, folks, it's a tearjerker, that's for sure. So be prepared for that. It's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing it with me. Thank you for sharing it with the world. It's an important story, and you should be very proud of this. So thank you to both of you, and best of luck on your future endeavors.
I really appreciate it, Court, for giving us the time. It certainly was a personal project, but having you cover it, and I know the hockey community taking an interest is really fantastic. And it's Jenny's baby, so I give her all the credit.